I'm out of milk. Black Hawk Inn. Jane and Daniel. I like the kids. We got to get over this hedge.
You think I'm unpatriotic? Actually, that's called freedom of speech.
Well, I'm very against that. Man. I don't even know his name. Great guy.
Welcome to DCT. All right. Welcome to DCT.
Episode 9. Ben, why do the British like tea so much?
You know, I got a lot of questions about them. One of them being, how do you conquer literally the entire world and come away with it with terrible food and tea?
You'd think they would find mouthwash somewhere along the line, somewhere off the coast of Magellan. Anyways, it's a very exciting night because the Capitals are playing Game 1 against the Montreal Canadiens.
Playoff hockey, man.
Playoff hockey's here in D.C. I'm excited. I'm nervous because Protas is still out.
But we get Thompson back.
You do get Thompson back, and that's a huge, huge improvement.
Yeah.
He's been our best goalie by far. I had him for my third goaltender to win the Vezina this year. He's been lights out for us, but he needs to play well.
Yeah, but I genuinely think even if he does make some mistakes tonight, he's going to be much better than what we've been fielding the rest of the last part of the season there.
Yeah, and the team does seem to play better in front of Logan than Lindgren, Shepard, or Stevenson. So hopefully they can pick it up tonight. They've moved Bavillier up to the first line, it looks like, so it'll be interesting to see how they start. They kind of coasted into the playoffs. You know, they made it a month ago. Montreal made it their last game of the season. Yeah, so they're going to come out like a house on fire.
We were worried that we were going to have to face Columbus.
Yes, and we looked terrible those two games, and I had said that that's not a team I want to play, the way Dean Evison coaches that team. No. So I'm glad that we're playing Montreal, but I'm definitely not taking them lightly. This is going to be a close game, and the Caps are going to have to really play their brand of hockey, be physical, take away the open ice, because this is such a fast team that you're playing with Montreal. You have to limit them to short and quick passes and just hope they make mistakes.
Yeah. So we'll see. I could definitely see it being like a Detroit game that I went to a couple months ago where, you know, Detroit starts out 2-0. You're wondering what's happening, and then the game ends 5-2.
Yeah, Radish scored late in the first period to get it back to 2-1, and then that third period we just took over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be a similar game, and hopefully they can just stick with it. They have been all season, so I'm excited. But let's get into some of the playoffs that we had predicted.
Yeah.
Some stuff that we've been talking about. As you know, we're having our bracket challenge, NBA bracket versus the NHL bracket. We're both looking pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident. I got 4 of my 5 teams winning Game 1, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I got 3, so
not a bad ratio. So
no.
let's go into the first game. Let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators.
Ullmark in this game looked awful. I know you said in your prediction that that's exactly what you're expecting, but a .75 save percentage, that is terrible.
He saw every shot.
He did.
He didn't get screened for any one of those goals, and he just couldn't save them.
It legitimately looked like Toronto watched that game film and they said, we're going glove side every time.
Marner's breakaway goal.
Yeah,
Ekman Larson from the slot. Every shot that went in, even the rebound goals that they had, which is just playoff hockey, they were all on his left side, and he just couldn't get there. He looked like he was 1 second behind the play.
Yeah.
And this is playoff hockey. It's a different speed. The game is faster. It's harder. You got to be ready for it, and he wasn't.
No.
And we had mentioned this in Boston. He had troubles there.
Yeah.
So Ottawa did all right. You know, Stolarz had an okay game.
Yeah, but Toronto had some things that they needed to clean up still. They might have won 6-2, but a lot of times they looked like they were puck watching on those goals that Ottawa had.
Yeah. Stolarz made the initial save, even the second save on a rebound. His rebound control was okay. But like you said, Toronto's defensemen, they have to take away the stick.
Yeah.
You know, when you're out in your slot, you have to move those Ottawa players just out of the way.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good first game for Toronto. I'm expecting more of that this series. As I mentioned previously, they're my pick for this series, and I think it goes maybe 5 games.
Really?
Yeah, Ottawa didn't look great, and Toronto looks like they're just ready to get going here.
Might have just been an off night for Ottawa, but we'll see.
Might have been. Now, Dallas
Dallas
and Colorado, that was a game.
Yeah.
The scoreboard does not reflect how that game was
No,
played. 5-1,
no.
Avalanche end up winning, taking that first game.
Yeah, there were
at home ice for Dallas, but
3 goals in the last 7 minutes?
7 minutes. So, and 2 of them were back-to-back. Ottinger just hadn't settled in at that point. I think the game's over.
Yeah.
But Ottinger looked great. He did not look bad that game. Stats will tell you otherwise, but if you watched that game, he was on the puck. He was seeing a lot of different lanes. He was taking a lot of shots, and he did pretty well. I thought there were some soft calls that went in Colorado's favor, but Roope Hintz also has to control his stick. That high sticking on McKinnon, that really cost you. You just got to be aware of what you're doing. And I get it. You're out there, you're playing intense, you're playing hard. It's a total accident, but you got to eliminate those mistakes.
Yeah, 100%. But at the same time, when you've got a goalie that's playing like Blackwood did, the chance of you winning goes down by so much.
And we had mentioned how even the series was and how I thought it was going to come down to goaltending. It did.
Yeah.
It did that night. I mean, Blackwood played fantastic. He was making saves that normally goalies don't make.
Yeah.
And I would even say, dare to say he wouldn't make in the regular season. But that's what you need out of a playoff goaltender to get far.
100%.
You need those saves that, you're watching the replay and you're like, how did he get there? And he was in great position all night. So I think he can really take them far, and I'm excited to see this Avalanche team. They might do it.
Yeah. I mean, when you've got Blackwood playing like that, you've got McKinnon, you've got Makar, you've got Natchez, it's tough to not look like you can win the whole thing.
Yeah, and if Nichushkin can get back to that 9 goals, 8 games, if he can get back to that playoff performance he had, you're looking at a really strong Western team.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the NHL. It did not disappoint those first few games.
No.
So, but speaking of Colorado, let's talk about the Nuggets.
That was quite a game. There were positives and negatives on both sides, obviously.
Yes.
You had Jokic, who played great. He played an average Jokic game, 29, 12, and 9, I think it was. And he did exactly what you were expecting him to do. Jamal Murray, not so much.
No, didn't execute as well.
No. Shot 7 for 20, which isn't awful.
No, it's not bad.
But playoff Jamal Murray is normally a much better player than that. So we'll see what they have going forward. I think for Denver, it all depends on what the supporting cast does. Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon, Peyton Watford, those guys, if they can contribute. Whereas L.A.,
how about James Harden?
How about our boy? Our boy.
Apparently, all you have to do is bash the guy, and he'll start playing phenomenally. So
yeah. So I believe he had 32, 11, and 6 in this game.
Yes.
Not at all what I'm expecting from playoff Harden.
No, we'd talked about how he shrinks in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It was almost flipped.
Yeah.
Kawhi needs to play better.
9 for 15. Very good shooting percentage. 22 points. Okay. But it just looked like he was shrinking from the moment a couple times. You've got a guy that had that 2019 run who went insane. Normally is a playoff performer. And I will say Denver, most of the time in the clutch, was double teaming him, making it very hard for him to get any movement at all with the ball.
Yep.
But you're made for that. You're a guy that load manages for a lot of the year, and then you come in at the end and you're supposed to carry your team in the playoffs, and he did not look like he wanted to do that the other night.
No, and it's game 1. But when you have an opportunity like this, because it's different every season, it's different every postseason, but if Harden's showing up the way he did, and he continues to do so, that's your opportunity.
Yeah.
He goes from being a supporting cast member to being a lead role. You got to jump on that train and play your best as well. Because I think if both of them are playing at that elite level, you can get past this Denver team.
Yeah.
You can do it.
100%.
So, but I think this is going to be one of their harder series if they advance.
I said game 7. I think it's 100% going to that. So.
Yeah. If they can get this away win, it'll mean a lot for them.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can kick it into gear, and Kawhi can have a little bit more of a productive and on-brand game for him.
Yeah.
It just looked like you said, he was behind a little bit.
Yeah. So speaking of not close at all.
How about the Lakers?
Not what I was expecting whatsoever, really. Anthony Edwards was not your typical Anthony Edwards. He was a facilitator. He was playing defense, but he was not scoring at that elite clip like he normally does. He had 22 points, I believe.
9 assists?
9 assists, 8 rebounds. Just overall good stat line. But when I think of Anthony Edwards, I think of a guy that takes over games by scoring 40 points.
Yeah.
I think of a guy that is just attacking and hammering at the other team defense the entire game. He was facilitating, and obviously he shot, I think, 22 shots, so it wasn't like he wasn't shooting, but everybody else around him was hitting everything they took. So he was like, you know what, I'm just going to focus on that. I'm going to get the ball to my teammates, and the Lakers had no answer for that. I think they really game plan for Anthony Edwards, but they weren't expecting guys like Jaden McDaniels to go for 25 on 11 of 13 shooting. So it'll be interesting to see what the Lakers look like. I think J.J. Redick is really going to game plan for more of a Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt on every shooter rather than just Anthony Edwards for the rest of the series. But it'll be interesting to see what the rest of this series looks like.
Well, I think what's interesting is that you go from a game plan of like, we need to isolate Edwards, to now everyone else has become a threat. And like you said, he's facilitated all that play that really resulted in a team-oriented win, which we were not expecting.
No.
I wonder if it's a mistake to take that coverage off of Edwards, because I wouldn't want to take the coverage off of Edwards and give him more space and start covering the rest of the team because they had a good game, because I don't think their consistency is going to match Edwards.
No, they're not going to shoot 50% from three every game.
No, it's just not going to happen.
But you're also not going to have a game where LeBron goes for, I think it was 19, 5, and 3.
He's not going to stay quiet.
Very pedestrian. And I honestly think this game was out of hand at halftime. I think LeBron was like, all right, I'm going to ease up a little. Let's head into game 2 with a different mindset. And obviously, like I said earlier, I think J.J. Redick's going to change up the style that they play. But it's not going to be that game every game this series.
No.
No.
And LeBron's not as physically dominant as he used to be. You know, with age, he's gotten slower.
He's evolved.
But he's, like you said, he's evolved and he's adapted, and he's brought up his intelligence for the game. And he's just playing so much smarter than when he was younger because he has to.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting a bounce back game from him.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be a different level. But this series, I think, goes a little bit further than I thought.
Yeah.
So it's been great playoffs so far, both NBA and NHL.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for the rest of the first round to play out.
So am I.
We're only one game in, so
Yep.
we got a lot of great sport. So
Let's delineate from sports a little now.
all right.
Ask each other a moral dilemma, if you will.
Yeah, new little game that we've come up with, which is what would you do?
Do you want to start with yours, or do you want me to go?
We're going to give each other situations, and we're both going to answer about how we would handle said situation.
Yeah.
So, Ben, I'll go first.
Okay.
I'm sure our viewers can relate to this. This happens to everyone. When you're entering an establishment and there's a person behind you, do you hold the door or do you continue to go in?
I mean, it really depends on the distance if you think about it. If they're right behind you, obviously you hold the door.
Well, what's right behind you?
Like, if you're walking in and they're a few steps behind you, you hold it. They say thanks. You move on with your day. If you see them getting out of their car in the parking lot.
Well, yeah, I'm not like waiting for someone in the county to come in.
Obviously not. But, yeah, I think that's common courtesy. That's what you got to do.
So you're saying that your courtesy has a meter. You have a range of courtesy.
Yes.
You have a courtesy bubble.
Everybody does.
No.
Okay.
My courtesy has no boundaries.
So let's say the same situation. You're opening the door. You turn around, and you see an 87-year-old woman in a walker 20 feet away from the door. It's going to take her 30 seconds to get there.
Does the walker have wheels?
Tennis balls. Yeah. You
Those
see
are-
her going like that to the door. It's taking her forever. Do you stand there? You've made eye contact with her.
Do you know what the worst part is? I'll quit halfway through. So I'll wait for about 10 seconds and gauge the speed at which she's coming, and then I'll probably give up as she gets closer, ironically.
Wow. So you look like a worse human being.
I look worse. I look like, come on, you can, whatever. And then I'm out. That you've reached my limit. My patience are gone. I can't do it. But I won't hold the door for anyone on their phone.
Really?
You could be right behind me if you're on the phone. That door is going to nail you in the face.
You might actually like push the door.
Yeah, if you're not paying attention, I've swung automatic doors. I won't do it.
Are you the reason why grocery store doors keep breaking?
It's me. But same with an elevator. I hate the holding. I don't want to put my arm in front of the door for other people. It could get chopped off. You're not worth it.
I'll smack that thing.
Yeah, I'm banging. All right. What's your dilemma?
You asked me a question. Now I'll ask you. At what point do you give your food back to the server at a restaurant when you don't like what they gave you?
I've never been strong enough to do that. I've never had what
All right, let me reword this question. At what point do you give your food to your girlfriend to give back to the server when you don't like it?
I don't. I can't get there, man.
Ever.
Because here's the issue. It gets back into their hands.
Yeah.
So if I offend them at any point, I am immediately concerned that my food will be on the receiving end of some contaminants. So I try to be as nice to wait staff, to as nice as the kitchen as possible, because they control what I'm putting in my body. So I have a big fear of restaurants and kitchens.
Okay.
So you send things back.
It has to reach a certain point, but I do.
But what if it's your mistake? What if you forgot to ask for something off? Like, oh, I didn't want this sauce on
obviously,
it.
if it's my fault, I'm not going to blame the staff.
But are you going to ask for it different? You're going to say, hey, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask for no salad. Can I get it with no salad?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Why?
Because that's your mistake. You have to eat your mistake.
I'm admitting it, but...
No. What do you think they do with that food? They have to throw it away.
Well, it's different.
No, it's not. They bring it back and they have to throw it away. So just because you make a mistake, the earth has to die? Trust me, you don't need to eat the food. You could go without one meal.
Earth is already dying. Might as well speed up the process.
Yeah, no wonder why you're not holding the door. All right, keep going.
If it's a question of like how my burger is cooked or something like that, and it's a little off, obviously I'm not going to send it back. But if it's like, you know, you go to a place, you order a steak per se. I know you're not in that tax bracket, but you order a steak and you ask for it medium, and they give it to you and it's rare. You eat it?
Every time. No fork.
That's why you're just not built
You're
different.
the reason that they have tipping on iPads now, because terrible customers like you have ruined the restaurant industry.
Terrible customer?
Yeah, that constitutes a terrible customer. The minute you complain, you're a terrible customer.
How is that not on the restaurant? They're the one that messed up the order.
I don't want my food back. You're just going to see it on the tip. If you make a mistake, I don't want to talk to you about it. I don't want to open a dialogue where you can rebuttal and be like, oh, sir, I'm pretty sure you asked for this. I don't want to deal with that. I don't need the headache. It's going to reflect on your tip. If you make 2 mistakes, you're at 15%. If you make 3 mistakes, you're at 10%. If you make 4 mistakes, you go back up to 20 because I'm assuming you're having a bad day. Okay, there's leeway, but I reflect my anger on the tip.
You're still paying for the food that you bought.
1,000%.
If you get a $30 steak and you don't get it cooked in the way that you want and it's very off, you're still paying $30 for that steak.
I can't afford $30 steaks. This has never been an issue.
All right. Why don't we move on?
All right. It's for the best. Let's talk about the NFL draft that's coming up. Talk about the Commanders and how they're looking.
I'm excited, man. I've been looking at mock drafts since the Super Bowl ended.
And you were looking at them during the Eagles game. Third quarter, you were like, all right.
That game was a blowout. I was looking at it in the second quarter.
But they got 5 picks this year.
I wish it was more.
I do too. They got one in the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 6th, and 7th.
Yep.
Yeah.
No 3rd or 5th. And that's because of the Tunsil trade and the Debo trade. But I don't know. I honestly, if I were them, I would try to trade back. I'm not.
You wanna give your draft position up and move back in the draft?
If it leads to more picks, yeah.
Okay.
If I can get a 3rd round pick and I move back 10 spots from 29 to 39, I can still get a good player that's in that same range at 39 and still add another one in the 3rd round. That's going to make a difference on my team.
Yeah. Well, the Commanders are in a good spot because they're not going for BPA. They're not going for the best player available.
No.
They have a roster that they're comfortable with. They just want to make upgrades to certain areas.
Yeah.
So you have that luxury of being able to move back to where certain players are projected to go.
Yeah.
Because you're not just targeting the best player.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a luxury that they haven't had in a while.
No. I genuinely don't know how to feel. I've never picked 29 in my life before as a Commanders fan.
Yeah. What do you feel is an okay spot to drop back to? What would you be comfortable with?
Preferably, I'm sitting there on draft night and the Cleveland Browns make a call to us. They're at pick 33, which is the first pick of the second round. So I'd love that pick, obviously. They have 10 picks, I think, in this upcoming draft, so they have a lot of draft capital they would be willing to give up. They're probably going to go with Travis Hunter at 2. So if they do that, that means that they still need a quarterback. So to make sure no other team kind of leapfrogs ahead of them and takes a Jackson Dart, takes a Jalen Milroe, they give us a couple picks, and they move up into that first round.
I don't see them giving you a second and a third for your first.
Why not?
I just don't think it's worth that.
Well, they're going to give us their second pick regardless.
I understand you're getting the second, but I think it would be a second and either a fourth.
I'd be fine with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have I believe they have 1 pick in the second, 2 in the third, and then their fourth round is like one of the first 5 picks in the fourth round. So they're all very close to the beginning of the round, obviously, because they're a terrible team.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'd be fine with that. Honestly, if they gave us I think they have pick 30. If they gave us pick 33 and pick 99.
You're comfortable with that as a trade?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, the Commanders are in a position where they don't need the first round pick that they have to address their needs.
Yeah.
So I do hope that they move it off. Who would you be willing to move up for?
I think that there's very few teams that if they were to call us asking if we want to move up, that I would say yes to. I don't want to move up at all. As I said before, we only have 5 draft picks, so I don't want to lose any of those or next year's because we're already giving a couple of next year's up for that Tunsil trade.
Yeah, or any current players or prospects.
No,
you want to keep
I don't
what
want.
you got.
I want to keep the team. But I will say there's a couple players that if they slide down the draft board like I'm expecting them to, I would be completely fine with moving up like 5 spots to get them. I don't think it would cost us a lot in terms of draft capital, and I think they're players that I'm very willing to risk that for.
Really, yeah.
One of them, Will Johnson. He's not going to be here, but, he had a turf toe injury this past year, kept him out for most of this past year for Michigan.
It's going to scare some teams.
Yeah, it's going to scare a lot of teams. Originally, they had him going top 5, and it's scaring teams to the point now where he's in like the late teens for some mock drafts that I've been seeing. So
it's just an injury that can continue to flare up.
Exactly.
And you don't know when or what's going to cause it.
Yeah. But prior to that, won a national championship as a starting cornerback for the Wolverine. Prior to that, I believe he started 6 games for them as a true freshman, which in the Big Ten is very impressive.
Yep.
So I just think he is a blue chip prospect that you can't really miss on, and I would love to put him right next to Mikey Sainristil, right next to Marshawn Lattimore, to eventually probably be Lattimore's replacement, but I just want to see him in that system.
Yeah.
And then the other guy I'm thinking of is same thing. Injuries kind of derailed his draft process, and that is Josh Simmons, the Ohio State tackle. I think if we got him, it would extend Jaden Daniels' career. You've got a guy that consistently is on the run, that consistently is out of the pocket. So if we can have an offensive line that is Laramie Tunsil at the left tackle, Brandon Coleman left guard, Tyler Biadasz at center, right guard Sam Cosme, right tackle Josh Simmons, that's a top 5 line in the league. I'm very happy with that for many years to come.
Well, yeah, like you said, it's about preserving Jaden Daniels and having such a mobile quarterback. You need to give him time.
Yeah.
Time to make the decisions that he makes. Because, I mean, you look at all the highlights that he's had, they've been last-second throws, dangerous plays, and you got to have coverage to make those plays. Mm-hmm. So it's an immediate upgrade.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm excited.
All right. So, which position do you think the Washington Commanders need to upgrade the most? What's their area of concern?
There's a few positions that I'd like to upgrade at, like running back, wide receiver, positions that we can get deeper at, but I don't think they're a top priority right now. Mm-hmm. I'd say the top priorities for us are our safety position and our edge rushing.
Yeah, defense-oriented positions.
Yeah, we lost Dante Fowler to the Cowboys this past offseason. Wish he was back, but, Dallas offered him a paycheck, and he loves it there. So
no, I mean, happy for him, but yeah, stinks for us.
Sucks for us. But one player that I really want at that safety position is Malachi Starks. He is a 3-year starter on a Kirby Smart-led Georgia team. He is kind of a plug-in wherever you want type player, and I think that could benefit our system a lot. Right now, our current safeties are Quan Martin and Will Harris from the Saints. Okay, not going to cut it in the NFC East, not with the Eagles, not with the Cowboys. The Giants have been making a lot of moves, so I think they're going to be better. So we need a guy that's going to be able to cover the field and is really intelligent, and I think Malachi really fits that mold.
And like you said, it offers flexibility for the rest of your roster.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how all that goes. But another one that I'm very excited about, I don't think he's going to drop to us, but if he does, Nick Emanwari, the safety out of South Carolina. This guy is an athletic freak. He's 6'3", 220. He ran a 4.38 40. He has 11.5-foot broad jump, a 43-inch vertical. He is exactly what you want as a DB. He's going to be that physical presence that Washington doesn't really have. Mikey Sainristil, 5'10", I think 180. Marshawn Lattimore is a little bit bigger, 6 foot, 190, I think. But you cannot beat the build of an Emanwari.
You're talking about a 30-pound jump.
Yeah. So I think if we had him, he could kind of be like the enforcer of our defense. And when you're going against guys like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Malik Neighbors, C.D. Lamb, these are all guys that can torch you, both going up the side and in the middle, and I think Emanwari could really stop them if he was in that.
How much would you be willing to give up to get him? Let's say he's going 10 rounds, 5 selections, 10 selections before our pick. What would you be willing to give up?
Again, I don't want to give anybody up.
You wouldn't give up enough for him?
I wouldn't give up a pick for him.
Really?
No.
You wouldn't give your first and maybe your third?
No. He's good, but like I said, I think there's really only those two guys that might slip that I'm willing to give up for.
Okay.
So, Emanwari's great. He's not great enough for me to give up more of our draft capital that we don't really have.
Yeah. You need to conserve the picks that you had. And like you said, you'd rather gain more picks because it's a deep draft.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. I think we can get depth at the position if we really need to in round 2. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. And from those edge guys, there's a lot of players that are supposed to go earlier in the draft. A Michael Williams, a Shamar Stewart, a James Pierce that I'd love to have. But I think at pick 29, they're not going to be there. So I have to be a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, and conservative in the approach.
Yeah. So one guy I was looking at was Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College. Looked great this past year. He's a little bit undersized. He's 6'2", 250, which you probably want your edge rusher to be a little taller, a little bulkier. But again, it's the NFL. He can bulk up if he needs to.
Yep.
But 16.5 sacks in the ACC is pretty solid. And again, I think Washington is just lacking that edge pressure after the departure of Dante Fowler that I think he could immediately fill in for. So it'll be interesting to see him. And if not him, honestly, Nick Scorton, he's projected to go late first, early second. He's probably one of those guys that if we did trade back with the Browns, could get him at that 33 pick or even like a 38, 39 range. He's probably still going to be there. And I really don't understand why. This is a guy that is 6'4", around the 270 range. I know ESPN listed him at 280 at the combine. He measured 260, I believe. So he's somewhere in between there, I'd say. But 6'4", great arm length. He has an arsenal of moves that he used to get to the quarterback. He's great in terms of leverage with his hand techniques and getting to the quarterback. And I think in a division with a Jalen Hurts, with a Dak Prescott, with whoever the Giants quarterback is.
They do so much damage with the time that they get.
Exactly. So I think you need somebody that can actually get after the quarterback. And with a beast like Scorton, I think that's very possible.
Like, that technique is not something that everyone can gain.
No.
Like you said, you can always improve, your basics, your details, but that technique is so powerful in the hands of a great coach.
It's hard to teach.
So when you have it, and you want someone like that. But it's exciting for the Commanders to be talking about upgrades to the roster rather than rehauls, where it's like, we're going to build off this guy.
Yeah.
Like, no more Chase Young stuff where it's like, that's a great guy to build off of, a great piece to improve the team on. Now we're just talking about improvements to a well-oiled machine that's already doing well.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be in an upgrading position.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
And I think it's better for the draft picks that come in.
Yeah.
No, not as much pressure, more of a learning experience for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
You finally have a team where you can bring young guys in and have a roster that's willing to teach them things.
And have them experience NFL football.
Yeah.
Not have to be great right away or your team's going to go 5 and whatever.
Yeah. So
it's a good time to be a Commanders fan.
I'm excited, man. It'll be a great season.
I think it's going to be exciting.
Do we want to move into Hot Shot now?
Let's move into Hot Shots. We're doing it a little different this time since we're in the playoffs. As you can see, we have no hot sauce today. But don't worry. The challenge is still very heated.
You're not going crazy. What's even the point of being here?
If Bryce isn't suffering, why is it fun? So instead, we're going to give each other questions. If you get it right, you gain a point for your playoff bracket. The only way that we can get a point in the playoff bracket is if one of our series is correct.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very important.
This is big.
This might save me with Dallas.
This could decide our first round matchup.
If LeBron screws you over, this is your redemption.
LeBron's been screwing me over since he's been in the league, but we're not going to talk about that.
You want to go first?
I would love to.
Hit me.
All right. Now, since this is worth a point, and that's a lot.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a little bit tough of a question.
A little bit tough.
A little bit tough.
Hit me.
So, this is a Washington Capitals question. In their last 10 playoff appearances, not seasoned, but playoff appearances, how many times has Washington made it out of the first round?
In the last 10 playoff experiences, how many times?
Appearances.
Did I say it wrong?
You said experiences.
No, appearances.
You said experience.
I'll kill you right now, dude. Do I have time to do math?
Yeah. You know what? I'll even let you write it down.
I'll ask you your question.
I'll let you write it down on the sheet if you want.
Well, let's go through them.
Okay.
Shall we? You're not including this year because it hasn't happened.
No.
So let's go 2024. They get iced by the Rangers in 4 games, swept. So that's
what we were
0.
expecting. Yep.
Before that, you lose against Florida, and I think that was 6-2. Sorry, 6 games played, 4-2.
Yeah.
So that's 0 there. Correct me if I'm wrong. You play Boston the year before. You don't get past the first round. There were a few overtime games that season. Honestly, we could have won that round, but you end up losing key moments.
Yep.
So that's 0 as well.
Mm-hmm.
You play the Islanders, which is a forgetful series in 2020.
Yeah.
And you lose. That was a terrible series. If anyone remembers it, it was such a weird year. It was a weird time. The bubble's going on.
That was a bubble.
But Nicholas Backstrom gets hit so badly from Anders Lee. And he had already been struggling with injuries since we won the Cup. Since before we won the Cup, he was having a really tough time. But that really seemed to kind of put the icing on his career. And I remember, man, these playoffs, these are hard to remember because, man, I remember in Florida, that's when Tom Wilson really hurt his ACL, I think.
Yeah.
This has been rough. So that's 0 there. The year before that, you play Carolina Hurricanes. You lose in 7. Justin Williams gets his revenge. You don't get out of the first round there. Now, 2018, you win the Cup. You're out of the first round. That's fantastic.
Oh, they made it out of the first round when they won the cup?
Thanks, buddy. Always appreciate the support. So we're at six series so far. We've made it out once. Now, the year before, 2017, you lose to the Penguins in the second round.
Yep.
But you make it past. Year before that, you lose to the Penguins in the second round. Sound familiar, folks? That's
I'm
3.
sensing a pattern.
That's 8 rounds. You've made it out 3 times.
Yeah.
That's 8 years. You made it out 3 times. Year before that,
Yeah.
you're playing the New York Rangers, to my knowledge. Derek Steffen ruins my life and gets a goal that only Doc Emmerich could call.
Ruined your life at the ripe age of
Holtby was crying.
9?
That was the hardest thing to experience in my life. I remember looking at the TV and then out of thin air, a remote appearing from behind and going right into the wall.
Did you look at it and say, bang?
Bang! One small step for man. My dad's insane. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The year before that. That's where my memory fades.
Oh.
That's where I start to lose it. Now, if I recall, that's 2015.
Yep.
That's Chicago winning the Cup. We played them in the Winter Classic that year, and for some reason, I can't remember a lick of the playoffs. I think you get past the first round that year, but I'm not 100% certain. So I'm going to go yes. I'm going to say you do. I'm going to say 5-5. So I think you got past the first round 5 times.
So in the last 10 years.
In the last 10 years,
5-5.
I think you're 5-5.
He got it wrong.
Was it 4?
It was 4. That last year really tripped you up, buddy.
This is the most brutal experience I've ever. I was so excited for that extra point. No, because Dallas isn't going to win. I'm nervous. Blackwood played so good this game.
Yeah.
I don't see them getting to him.
No.
Sagan needs to step up. Rope Hintz's looked great. Duchesne's looked okay, but you got to. Oh, you are a mean, very ugly man right now. All right, mine's nicer.
Oh, that's good.
What was the score? It's a 3-parter.
Ugh.
Brother.
3-parter. Does that mean if I get 2, I win?
Nope.
Oh.
What was the score of the Commanders-Lions game this year in the playoffs? What was the score of the Commanders-Eagles game?
What is
this playoffs?
Is easier?
This is easier. And then how many touchdowns did Jaden Daniels have in both games combined?
You suck.
If you want, I can give you the over-under on some of these. I'll give you over-under for touchdowns. You want to do that part last? We'll save the chance for last.
Don't give me your pity, okay?
Hey, we said we had to make these questions hard because this is the playoffs. And I'm not going to give you a free point. You just made me go through 10 years of history. I'm barely 10 years old right now. Commanders, Lions. Do you remember the game?
I know the Lions had 28 points.
28, that's what you're going with?
Well, you asked the score of the game, right?
I did.
So I need to answer both teams.
You do. That's for Detroit?
Yeah.
Try thinking.
42-28.
42-28.
Yeah.
You're already wrong. It was 45-31.
I was off by a field goal for both teams.
I'll let you get the Eagles, and if you get the Daniels,
I'm not going to get either of them.
go for the Eagles. What do you got? Throw a number out there. I'll give you the over-under. Ready?
Sure.
All right. I'll give you 2 possible scores. You tell me which one you think it was.
Okay.
22-54 or 23-55? That's as fair and as even as you're going to get.
So 22-54.
22-54
Yeah.
or 23-55?
23-55.
It was 23-55.
Yeah.
Now, Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
How many touchdowns did he have?
Can I guess this first?
Yes.
5.
No.
Was it higher?
It was lower.
Oh, 4?
I think it was 3.
You think? You think?
I did forget.
You didn't even look up this question.
We'll do a check.
Oh, my.
But it doesn't matter. You got the other questions wrong. You're out.
We're both.
Thanks for playing. That was tough. I like that though.
Yeah, that was
I
good.
would like to do that again.
Yeah, maybe we'll think about getting it correct next time.
We'll try.
Both of us. Probably not.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Well, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of DCT. Please like and follow if it's something you're interested in. If you like hearing Ben's voice or looking at his gorgeous face, be sure to subscribe so you can get more of that content.
You called me ugly like 2 seconds ago.
And that holds true. That personality showing, folks. Isn't it disgusting? But we're excited for this playoffs. It's only going to get more exciting as it goes on. We're going to have some great picks. We're going to have some terrible picks.
Yep.
I might be eating my words on Dallas tonight. So we'll see how that game turns out. But thank you guys so much for viewing. We really appreciate your time and hope to see you soon.
Let me know if next episode you'd rather the episode end by Bryce dying of hot sauce, or if you'd like something more like this.
You know what? We'll do the hot shots and a playoff point.
Let's not get too crazy. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day.
Have a great week.